Right, what have we got today? Boosh. Well, hopefully, and I'm praying and pleading to the gods of flashlights here that this will be a quick review, because I know some people get a bit sick of the lengthy ones, but some people do like the long reviews. But I'm going to try and march on with this one. So anyway, moving on, this is the Jetbeam Mini 1 SE. Now you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, Mini 1, isn't there already something called a Mini 1? Well, there is, but not by Jetbeam. If you remember way back in the good old days, and I think it's by, there it is, by Claris. Here's the Claris Mini 1. Can you see that? So I'm a bit confused as to why there's another Mini 1, but okay, different companies, so don't get them confused. The Mini 1 is, I mean, I love it, I really like it, but it has one of these tiny 10180 batteries. I'll just quickly show you. I know this isn't what the review's about, but this has a tiny 10180 battery there, minuscule thing. You're only getting around 100 to 120 lumens out of this, with a micro lens TIR on the end. Again, I liked it, had a couple of modes, and look, behind an O-ringed section, watch, bang, you have micro USB charging. Although I'm not a big fan of the micro USB, I prefer the Type C these days. So moving on rapidly, let's get back to what I'm supposed to be talking about, because I want to make this quick. Okay, so Jetbeam, it's the Mini 1 SE, so you're probably thinking, okay, what do you mean SE? Well, second edition, I presume that stands for, generally does in these terms. I noticed that the Mini 1 seems to have a silver or a metallic finish, and this has more features, as in a glow-in-the-dark polycarbonate shell of some description. We'll quickly go over these. Max output, about 500 lumens. That's on turbo, not the high setting, and those are the figures from Jetbeam in their lab, not mine. And you can get a maximum of 15 hours runtime. Now, bear in mind, that's on the lowest setting, which is about 1 lumen. But we'll go over the different modes. You've got a throw figure. I generally ignore these because I never seem to be able to get these in real life. And there's the Candela if you really wanted it, you know, 1800. Drop rating will go over and all of that. And it says here it's got counterfeit detecting. Well, that's nice to see. So if someone gives me $1,000 bill, I can check it out. Type C, and you've got all these colours, which I will explain what the purpose of that is. It won't come like this, where it looks like it's been half-eaten by a rabid dog. That was my fault. I did that. And there's the back. Not a lot to say. That looks like the Fireflies logo there. I presume maybe it's got a different name in different companies, but we'll get this open. There's not a lot to this package, actually. All you've got is you've got this insert. I wonder if there's anything in here. Let's just have a check. Aha, okay, we've got something here. We've got some instructions in Chinese there by the looks of it, and there's the English. If you want to pause that, you can do. So you can have a look at all of that if you really want to do that last thing at night. And there's how you operate it. And it's by Shenzhen Jetbeam Electronics by the looks of it there. Okay, nice to see. And I've just noticed falling out the bottom there is what's called a split link. So that split link allows you to attach that section to the tail section of this. So throw that away, boosh, get that in the bin. Here's the tail section here. So the split link would go through that, and then presumably it would attach to whatever you want to attach it to. And I'm sure the majority of people would attach this to a set of keys. I know I do with my Nitecore Tiki, which looks very similar. Here is a Nitecore Tiki. This is the glow-in-the-dark version of I have the non-glow-in-the-dark version on my keys right now, so I'm a big fan. And it looks very, very similar. Let's just look at that. Look at that, extremely similar. Although the Nitecore Tiki looks slightly bigger, although I'm wondering if that has something to do with the battery. I think you get a 120 milliamp hour lithium ion battery in this. This is slightly bigger, not much. It's only like 5% bigger or something. It's something like 130 milliamp hour battery, but same chemistry. They're both lithium ion, so it looks slightly bigger. It certainly doesn't there, but the very, very same design with the push button here, and then multifunction lights on the side. I've had no problems with my Nitecore, and I really like it. And it's got the charging on the back there. This one seems to have charging on the side rather than on the back. And it's Type C on this. So sticking to this, and we'll put that in the bin. I'll go over some other features whilst we'll have a look at it. So like I say, a maximum of 500 lumens. That's on turbo, so if you hold the button down, so there's your 500 lumens. I will go over the different modes, don't worry though. And this one, in order to do that, is using, and no need to zoom in there, but it seems to have some sort of TIR lens on there to just give you quite a floody beam, because this isn't, you're not going to get a long distance out of this. This isn't what a keychain light's for. You know, it's for close-up work basically, and it's using the Cree, a genuine Cree LED emitter, and it happens to be using the XP-G3. So rather an old LED, but you know, they've done their work all these years and they still work really well, and you're getting 500 lumens out of this, which is pretty good for something this compact. You know, you can't really complain at that. When you want to go up in lumens, you have to get something a little larger. You know, you're looking at something like the Tip SE from Nitecore, or if you want to really push out the boat, you can get something posher like the 720 lumens from the Tip 2, or from the TUP you're getting around 1000 with a huge big TIR there. Look at the difference there. But you know, I'll cover them later on in the review. So like I say, I think it's about 120 milliamp hour lithium ion battery built in. You can't change that, but you can charge it. So let's quickly get to the charging. So I'm going to use my trusty X-Star here, and I want to see if the charging works. So plug that in. Now, in regards to charging, in their own literature on their website, they say fast charging, fast charging. I was never able to get this to fast charge. It was more of a tiny trickle, around 0.1 of an amp or slightly below that. We'll just see what happens here when we plug this in. When we plug this in, you should get the red light indicating that it's charging. Now, when that's done, it will go green. So there you go. So you can see you've got the red light is illuminated there. That means it's charging. And in regards to charging, ignore that figure there. It's charging at about 5 volts, which is standard for this. This is your Type A to Type C. And like I said, yeah, again, so 0.1 of an amp. That's pretty slow, but you're probably thinking, well, that's far too slow. It is slow, but it's not slow on something that has a very small battery. Remember, this isn't something like a 3400 milliamp, you know, massive Samsung or anything like that. This is a very small battery, so you don't want it going too fast anyway. So that's fair enough. But like I say, when I saw fast charging, I'm thinking, well, that's not particularly fast in my books, but okay. But it does charge. Now the question is, yes, it charges. Does it work whilst it's charging, which is a feature I like? Well, it does. Watch. So it is charging there. There's the red light, and you can see juices going in. Turn it on, and it works. You can go through all the modes. I like that feature because it means you can still use the light whilst you're charging. I've used that multiple times in camping scenarios and outdoors pursuits and things like that, where you want to charge and still be active, carrying out duties or whatever it is you happen to be doing, and you're still able to charge up. And then so the next day you're not having to say, well, we'll just sit in the dark whilst I charge this, you know, like a caveman. You can actually use a bit of technology. So nice to see. And in regards to the tint there, you can see there it's cool white, although it looks particularly blue on this camera here. And the tint actually looks quite nice there. It's on the cool end of the spectrum. It's certainly not a neutral white or very, very like sunlight. So we'll unplug that. Now the question is, yes, it charges, but does it allow power delivery? So in order for power delivery to work, you would use a Type C to Type C. So there's your Type C connectors. So let's see if that works. So we'll get that plugged in. So I'll plug that into the charging port all the way in, and then we'll plug this into the output. And as you can see, nothing, no red light illuminating, no juice going through. Yes, it's still set on 5 volts there, but nothing is going through, or nothing that we can see anyway. So it doesn't unfortunately charge on power delivery. That's very disappointing to see. And I've discussed this before. Yes, it's not such a big issue for some people, but it's going to become more of an issue in future. And in regards to the port, it was a little bit flimsy. I'm not a big fan of these rubbery flap things, but as you can see there, it doesn't go particularly deep in, does it? Look, it's a pretty shallow protector, but it does protect it. Now, interestingly, even though it's not a particularly good flap, on their own figures, they're claiming IPX8, so they're claiming that that'll go into 2 meters of water on top of it, and for 2 hours, and that will remain unaffected. Probably, if that's perfectly seated at all times, then that might be true, but I would probably suggest, and again, I'm not saying Jetbeam Mini, I'm simply suggesting, in my opinion, it may be more likely that this is an IPX7 or below. I don't know, but I might do some tests on that. But I fear that if I do that, I'm going to knack it with some water. But I might do some of that testing just for the channel. And in regards to the other figures for this light, it comes with I think it's a 2 meter drop rating, which is pretty good. So they're saying you can drop this from 2 meters onto concrete and it'll be fine. Nice to see, because some of them are getting a bit lazy these days and they've got 1 meter or 1.5 meter. At least they're saying this is hardware. And I wasn't able to take this off. It's been great in the 2 weeks that I've carried it. I've carried it on a keychain and off a keychain. In regards to having it on a keychain, I didn't use that split link here. I didn't use that. I used the connector that I had, which was I think it was a Night Eyes in my pocket at the moment, and it hasn't knacked the plastic or anything like that. or not that I can notice anyway. Now you're probably thinking, well, what's the button like? The button's okay. It's middle of the road. It's not too hard and it's not too easy. It's just right. Because if you remember on my review of the Nitecore, I found it a little bit annoying to hold down on turbo, where that's not the case with this. Easy to hold down, no problem. You know, you don't have to be a weights lifter to hold it down. Pretty good. And now this does come with an electronic lockout, which is nice to see, which you don't get on a lot of the other brands, but I'll go over that when we go over the UI, because I'm going to go over that rapidly. So it comes in at about, I think it's about 12.3 grams, so it's very lightweight, very commensurate with the other lights of exactly the same size. Not a lot of difference. It certainly is a keychain light. And as well as the main emitter, you have a red, green and blue. So what we'll do is, if we're hang on, let me get a good shot there. Right, if we zoom in a bit there, can you see how there's an LED on the left and an LED on the right? So the LED on the left is almost segmented. Now what that is, it's one LED, but it seems to be able to produce on that die different colors. So what you've got is, you've got a red, green and blue, and then this secondary LED to the right, lower down on the flashlight towards the tail end, is a UV LED, and it's specifically, it'll only output a UV light. And I think it does that in the 365 nanometer range. So that's just a description of the waveform, where you're going to get. So we'll zoom out there. So you've got those secondaries as well as your main beam. So as well as that, you've got a glow-in-the-dark shell. So in regards to the glow-in-the-dark shell, I think they're using either a zinc sulfide or a tiny amount of strontium aluminate. And I'll tell you why. I had the same problem with this. This, after about 3, watch, I'll show you. Hang on, bear me a few seconds. There's one. Right, let's get a light. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And now we're not in a darkened environment, obviously, because I'm shooting, but let's apply some light to that. Okay, so just some random light. This is the Nitecore I have in my hand at the moment. Right, can you see how that's glowing in the dark now? You see? Beautiful. What a lovely feature. Fantastic. I love that. It's really cool. However, in 3 minutes time, it's not going to look so cool because it stops glowing. Well, what's the point of that? If you're going to put glow in the dark in, make it last a bit longer. And the same, can be said for this. This is the Jetbeam in my hand at the minute, so we'll do exactly the same. And yes, you could say, well, TrailTrek, you're not giving it long enough. I know that, but I've tried longer periods of exposure to light, and it still doesn't matter. It still doesn't last. So again, lovely. I love that feature, glow in the dark. Just means that when you've been using the light and light's been on it, you can quickly find it again. I like that feature, but it doesn't last. I mean, already I can see that's starting to dissipate. So either this plastic doesn't contain enough of like a chemical like strontium aluminate, or not a high enough grade, it may be a rubbishy grade, or it's using the old zinc sulfide, which doesn't glow for very long. Look, already that's dissipating. Compare that to, I think this is something that this is a higher grade. This is strontium aluminate. If we just apply some light to that, so I'll just put that on for the same amount of time, you'll see there's a big difference in output. So this is already, the green is almost gone. I think we can agree on that. Now look the difference between that and that. That's so bright, it's actually, that was so bright, the green section there. And bear in mind, this is already an enlightened environment, so this is glowing anyway to an extent, but that's a massive difference. See, so I think they're probably using something like zinc sulfide. Okay, fair enough. I can understand why they would do that, because this is a rather cheap item. Therefore, you don't want to bump the price right up and put yourself out of business. I understand that. That's fair enough. Okay, so like I say, Type C, not power delivery, which is unfortunate to see. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go over the UI, and then I'll talk about the different modes. So the UI, so one click is on or off. So it's either on or it's off. Okay, dead simple. Now when it's on, you can cycle through the modes. So we'll turn that on and we'll cycle through the modes. Okay, so turned on, right? So to cycle through the modes, you just hold the button. So there, you see how it's flicking through the modes. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, so we'll go to mode number 1. So that's the lowest there. Now that's about, I think that's 1 lumen. That will last 15 hours on this battery, as long as it's fully charged, obviously. And they're saying that's about 1 lumens. It feels like about 2 or 3, but maybe it's the TIR spreading it out at close range. Okay, if they're saying that's 1, who might disagree? It just looks a little bit more than that. That's perfectly fine. That's enough for doing things at relatively close distance when you don't want to give away position or ruin the battery, or maybe you want to use that as a positioning aid at night. That's fair enough. Okay, so that's your eco. So for hold, we'll go to the next one. Right, we're now in low. That's 35 lumens, and they're saying on their figures anyway, you get 1.5 hours out of that. So quite nice, and I'm not noticing any flickering on this. I think it's a constant circuit driver on this one. There's no pulse width, flickering away, making everyone irritated. I tried my hardest to find any with slow motion photography, and I wasn't able to find any. And I did speak to some other people about that. So hold that. Medium, that's 100 lumens, very nice. You can get a lot of tasks done like that. They're seeing you get about 35 minutes out of that. And then hold it again. That's the highest in the sub modes anyway. So that is 200 lumens. You'll get 20 minutes out of that. Brilliant. 200 to 300 is great for up close, and you'll get most jobs done at that, and especially with a TIR, it spreads it out nicely. So if you want to go higher than that, the light needs to be off, obviously, but then you just click and hold. That's turbo. See, that's very bright in comparison. So that there is your maximum. That's 500 lumens. Now you only get 10 minutes out of that. So you're probably thinking, well, hang on a minute, what about all these little LEDs? How do you make those work? Okay, well, the UI goes further on from that. So we've got click on and off. We've used the hold. So if you want the side lights, it's 2 clicks. So 1, 2. Okay, so straight away that's taking us to blue, and I apologize if there's any annoying flickers or whatever, but that's just what it looks like. So as you can see, there's a lot of color cast on my hand here. It's not particularly nice to look at because it's just one wavelength, it's blue. So interesting to have, you can use that as a positioning aid. They're saying that the output on all these colors, not just blue, but red, green and blue, is 150 lumens. They don't give a run time. I would suggest you're probably going to get about 30 minutes. That's my suggestion. Okay. And if you're using them in a flash mode, obviously they're on and off, you're probably going to get double of that, or maybe it's an hour and a half, depending on how long the intermittence is between the flashes. Okay, so in this mode, what you can do is you can click and hold again like you did for the main modes to go through it. So click and hold and it should take us to the next color, but you'll notice it comes from the same location, so it's on the same LED place. So click and hold, and it's now gone to flash. Now what I want to do is I want to quickly go, and we'll go back to the start because it makes more sense then. Okay, so we'll start with red. So red, click and hold. Green, looks a bit sort of aquamarine-y there. Blue, and then I've gone to the next one, which is red, green and blue flash. Then the next mode, there it is a slow cycle between them all, but they're all on. There's no off time, so it's red, green, blue, red, green, blue, and then click and hold again. I didn't hold that long enough. There you go. There. Now you're getting a positioning marker basically to give away position, and that's red flash only. So it's like a double flash then off, double flash and off. So I would probably estimate around an hour and a half you should get from that, as long as it's fully charged, obviously. And then click for off again. So that's your modes. So you've got 3 flash modes, and then the 3 lighted modes, as in red, green, and blue. So interesting. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, what about the UV? How the hell do you get the UV? Okay, so I've gone through all of that. So I think it's 3 clicks. Now I hope I'm right here, otherwise I'm going to look like a fool. So 1, 2, 3, yes. Now you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't look very UV-ish. It is, but remember, this is a glow-in-the-dark plastic, so it is instantly lighting up as a green. You see how it looks green on the hand there, but the light itself, I'm trying to, if I can find something that would pick up, let's have a look. Would this pick it up? Yeah, there you see how it looks blue on there, so the UV is reflecting off there nicely. There, that's better. Okay, so there you can see. So it is UV, and I've checked, because when you look and you see little bits of fluff off socks and things like that. So that it does work as a UV, and then I think that's the only mode. I think that there might be there's no other sub modes in the UV system anyway. There's no extra modes. Although having said that, when you're in this UV mode, that's how you get to lockout. So I'll show you that. So if you wanted to lock this out, I found this a bit irritating. If you want to lock this out, you've got to go 1, 2, 3 into UV mode, right? Then when you're in UV mode, you've got to hold the button down for 8 seconds. So we'll hold that down and watch what happens. That's a long time, that. 8 seconds for a lock mode, right? Now it's flashed a few times. Now it's locked, okay? I can't use the light. So you're probably thinking, how do I get out of that? Well, to unlock, you can't unlock quickly either. You've got to wait again. It's a bit like going to the post office. You've always got to wait. So you've got to hold this down for 4 seconds. There, finally it works. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think that's a silly way to have lockout, because it takes too long to unlock. What if you needed to do it in an emergency? And on top of that, it takes too long to get into it. So let's just see how long it takes me to get into into lock mode. So let's lock this now, right? So what do I do again? I think I go to UV mode. 1, 2, 3. Right, I'm in UV mode now. Hold that for 8 seconds. I mean, come on, I'm not a fan of that, but I will admit it's nice to see that there's a lock mode, because there's lights that don't come with a lock mode. What they do is they tend to make the button a bit harder to press, which is fair enough. Or they'll have daily modes and demo modes, so it turns off after 30 seconds. Okay, fair enough. But I think, could you not just have made it 4 clicks? Would that not have been a hell of a lot easier? But, you know, just my opinion. So we've been through most of the stuff there. What I want to do is I want to discuss some of the pros and cons, and then we'll look at some other lights quickly, and then we'll go outside so you don't have to listen to my silly voice anymore, and I'll actually show you what it looks like. So pros and cons wise, it's type C, which is great, you know, omnidirectional, doesn't matter which way you put this in, fantastic, bang, but it's not power delivery, so that's an irritation. Okay, they're saying it's fast charging. I was only ever able to get a trickle, but that's probably all you need on such a tiny battery. Okay, it works whilst it's charging. Excellent, I'm a big fan of that. I can appreciate that. You've got UV if you want it. It's got a 2-meter drop rating, so that fills me with a bit of confidence, especially for a flashlight on a keychain where it's going to get knocked and banged against keys and metal things. Got an IPX claim. Now you realise I'm saying it's got an IPX claim. Nice to see. It may be IPX, but I would have doubts if this isn't perfectly seated, because, you know, looking at it, let's get so you can actually see there, it's not, but it doesn't go in particularly deeply, does it? So there may be issues there. There may not, but I'm just pointing these things out. There's a nice metal bezel on here, feels solid, and there's enough of a gap down there, so if you did drop it, whack it off something, it's unlikely to break this. And I do think they've got mineral glass on there, which is nice to see. Glows in the dark, but like I say, it doesn't glow long enough. It's definitely not strontium aluminate. I think it's zinc sulfide, or a minuscule amount of the aluminate there. It doesn't last very long, but the same could be said of the glow in the dark version of the Nitecore Tiki that had the same problem. Glows for a limited period of time only. One thing I want to mention is, though, in fact, what I'll do is let's bring up 3 pictures. So we'll bring up 3 pictures up top here. So as you can see there, what I've done is I took 3 lights. I took the Rovivon A8, which I'm putting on here. Okay. Then I took the Nitecore Tiki, which is this one. And then I took the Jetbeam Mini one, and that's the photograph on the right there. So let's just quickly discuss these. So the first picture here, so you probably think, well, that doesn't look very light. It makes the grass look a little bit unsaturated, less vibrant, certainly less saturated, less green, and it's not very bright, is it? And that was on turbo on the Rovivon A8. Okay, so moving on to picture number 2, in the middle there you can see on the Nitecore Tiki I used the it was the standard version, not the glow in the dark, but there's no difference other than the glow in the dark shell. They're exactly the same. So it was the Nitecore Tiki on my keychain. You can notice the grass looks very vibrant, doesn't it? It almost looks like you've gone from you know, somewhere up in Canada to the Barbados and you've got lovely grass. Well, I filmed in one continuous section here. These aren't separate photographs, they're certainly separate screenshots, but I filmed in one continuous video in 4K, same settings. I didn't change position or anything. All that changed was the light that was in my hand. So it's interesting to see that the Nitecore Tiki gives a totally different look. But then moving on onto the third image on the far right here, you can see that it's actually, as a photographer, I noticed that that's overexposed. So you're getting too much white light reflecting off the grass there. I would have wanted to adjust the ISO settings and white balance, but that just shows you that it is brighter, because bear in mind that the Jetbeam here will output 500 lumens on maximum on turbo, whereas the Nitecore isn't. It's only going to output 300. So as you can see, there is a big difference there. In regards to reach, I don't know if it reached any further. I'm not going to say that reached any further. I mean, you can scrutinize these pictures further by zooming in. I'm presenting this in 4K, so you can do that sort of thing. I wouldn't say it particularly stretched any further, but it certainly gave more light, and it's illuminating more at the same time, as you can see. Okay, so we'll move these out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boosh there, get rid of them pictures, and we'll move these out of the way. So like I say, this one is outputting more lumens at the end of the day than these, you know. I love the Nitecore Tiki, I use it, but 300 lumens versus 500. Now the problem with that is you're probably thinking, well, more lumens isn't better, always. True, you run the battery down, but it's nice to have that option, because you could just never use that option and still have the battery run times increased. So the question is, will I be swapping from the Tiki to this? I don't know. I might carry both, but then that's a bit silly, isn't it? Because then is one not redundant? I might swap, even though I love the Tiki. For a long time, I carried the Through Night. This was only about 100 to 120 lumens running on a AAA, and I loved this light. And I was so impressed with this, I swapped, because look, size difference and more output. So again, am I going to now swap to the Jetbeam Mini? I suppose, unless I'm an idiot, why would I not? Other than the lockout's irritating, but then, okay, you can't really use that as an argument because you're not using the lockout on this, there isn't one. So what's your excuse? I'm not sure. I may swap to this. We shall see over this next week. I'll carry both at the same time again, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so pros and cons, like I say, there's no clip on this, whereas you can get clips for this, and there's clips on the Rovi Vaughan, and you know, they are available where you don't have that option on here, even though it does have these indentations, which would suggest that that could be a possibility. I didn't get one. Maybe that's in a different package. I don't know. I think e-lockout is a con. It's too stupid to get to, and it takes 4 seconds to get out. Come on. Why not just make it 3 clicks? It's so much simpler. That's what I would have done. But like I say, I think they've done a good job here, and it's more lumens than the competition. In regards to that, before I give this a mark, you know, let's just have a look. Here's some other lights that you could consider. Let's put them in a pile and then quickly get through them. Right. Okay. So if you wanted loads of lumens, but people will argue, and I agree with them, this is too big for a keychain light, even though it's supposed to be. It's not really, is it? It's an EDC, and that's why it comes with a large belt clip. But you get 1,000 lumens out of that, so pretty good. That's a lot of lumens for a small thing, and you get the display as well. You know, that's a lovely thing to have, a display telling you run times and things like that. But large, very large. You could look into the tips by Nitecore. You get a lot more lumens. You get, I think it's 360 lumens on the standard tip. Hardware and nice, but it's got that daft daily driver and all that rubbish. It uses like a frosted cover there. Or if you wanted to go for a lot more lumens, you can go for the Nitecore Tip SE. Now the Tip SE is very similar. I think there's about 700 lumens on this, whereas it's 720 with a Tip 2. But both nice lights. That one very bright, 720. It uses a dual emitter on that one, which is, and they're both behind a TIR. But again, they cost a lot more. I think they've done a great job on this. Nice smoothed edges, beautiful, and that's another double emitter there behind the TIR. You could go for some of the old school things, you know, like I was saying. If you bear with me a few seconds. So the old school ones, where are they? So that one, and like I say, I was using this one. So I was using this for a long period of time, and that's why it's so battered looking. About around 120 lumens running on a AAA, and the same with the Jetbeam. This is the Jetbeam Jet U, I think, is it not? Jetbeam, yeah, Jet U. Behind the TIR, this one is a orange pure reflector, so you get a little bit more throw, but they're all very similar. I actually preferred in this range anyway, and this is an older one, but this has an Achio, which has a nice, but look, it's pretty bulky. This is the Astrolux. Now what is it? It's the Astrolux. I never remember the A01. I preferred the it was the lumen top. Had a nice ribbed action. You don't hear that very often in a flashlight review, do you? A nice ribbed action like a sex toy. And this was the EDC01, but it had a brilliant micro lensed TIR setup which gave a beautiful diffuse glow. I really like this light. In fact, I still recommend it for people as a keychain light, although moving on, I may be more likely to recommend things like the Jetbeam Mini one or the Nitecore Tiki. But you know, if you want more lumens and you still want something smaller, you go for the Nitecore Tiny or Tinny or whatever they want to call it. That's how they term it anyway, and you get about 380 lumens out of this. Very small, but the battery doesn't last quite as long as the Nitecore tip. If you wanted to go smaller than that, you've got the really small ones like the Nitecore tube, but yeah, very, very, very small output for its size. You know, they've had their day really. And you've got the the Claris Mini one on the right here, and then this is the Mech Army. Is it the X4 or something? X4S. Never remember the numbers here. In fact, let's zoom in. Let's have a look. If I can get it to focus, please focus. X4S, that says there. Okay, so again, this is very similar to the Claris, but tiny. But let's just look at them size-wise. So bear in mind, these are outputting around 100 to 120 lumens. Look, for not much extra in size, you can go up to 500 lumens. So what would you rather have? I would obviously pick that. Nearly 5 times the output for that size. It's a no-brainer. So you would either go for, you know, the Rovivon or the Tiki, or if you wanted the maximum output, you'd go for this. So let's quickly move them out the way, and I want to give this a mark out of 10, and we can actually get outside and look at these things. Okay, so like I say, pros: Type C but not power delivery, fast charge, the Acclaim but I only got a trickle, works whilst charging, has UVs, red, green or blue, and it's got all those 3 flash modes, 2 meter drop rating, IPX8, glows in the dark, but you know, not particularly amazing. It's certainly not like, you know, Mutagen of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or anything like that. It's brighter than the Tiki, which is true. Not power delivery. The glow doesn't last very long. The E-lock out, yeah, come on, just make it 3 clicks. You don't. Oh, I was going to say you don't get a clip. I didn't get a clip. So bearing that in mind, I gave the Nitecore quite a high mark. I'm going to have to give this a 9. I have to. Yes, the E-lock out's rubbish, but that's an easy fix. All they need to do is change the firmware. Surely they can change that and do a revision 2, where it's 3 clicks for lockout or something similar like that. That's an easy fix. All the things I don't like are easily fixable, in the same way that they can just upgrade it to allow power delivery. Has to be a 9. At this price, it's very low priced. I paid a decent price for this. It's certainly in line with the Tiki, if not better. Yes, this has I think it's something like a 5 to 10% larger battery, but it's hardly noticeable, and you're going to be pumping through this anyway if you're hitting turbo all the time. So they've made a great light. I'm very impressed. Well done, Jetbeam. I'm always impressed with Jetbeams. I should try and get a lot more, but I don't want to waffle on too long. So well done. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. They've done a great job. Nice output for its size. Just make it glow longer. Sort out the E-lock out. If you're going to add one, make it, you know, easy to get to and turn off. Make it glow a bit longer, and maybe add power delivery. But well done. So enough of me waffling. Let's get outside.